to the Positive Outlook podcast. Stoked to have you here. So Edmund is currently the CEO of Kumquat Energy and Kumquat Energy Drinks.
I don't like
Uh,
that title. I started the company, brought a team together. I just like to be a co-owner, co-founder.
all right, cool. And obviously the Gold Rally Maniac.
Yep.
Been doing this for a little.
That's coming up here in less than a month.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man. So appreciate you jumping on the call. Just want to get to pick your brain a little bit and kind of see what's been working for you, what's your story. The whole intention of the podcast right now is to everybody's going through ups and downs. Obviously, a lot of people hear about all the ups, not on downs so much. And obviously, you've done well for yourself, having the reinforcement of the positive attitude and positive information that things that you want to do are possible. Obviously, that's why you are where you are now. But tell me a little bit as far as like your upbringing. How'd you get to getting sales and kind of how the whole thing started?
Sure. Yeah, I was born and raised in France, moved to America when I was 12 years old, came to Portland, Oregon. My mom fell in love with a Korean American, and he's a naturopathic doctor. She went to naturopathic school. They have a clinic in the Northwest, and they do very well. They make 150 grand a year. They're happy. They have a nice, simple life. And I've always wanted more. I've always been a huge dreamer. My mom's dream for me was to be a classical violinist and to have a life where I make a living playing the violin. That is the opposite of what I wanted. I wanted to play tennis, win Wimbledon, and ultimately I ended up going to Lincoln High School, which is a public school, and playing the violin wasn't very cool. So I started selling weed, and before you know it, I had 4 kids per high school, 8 different high schools, doing a quarter pound a week of weed. I was making 3-5 grand every other day, and that was my first taste at making money. Ended up getting in trouble, doing 5 months and 3 days in jail. Was supposed to be a year, but I got into Juilliard and I got into every major music school, Peabody with John Hopkins, NYU, you name it, USC. And so, I got out 5 months and 3 days in with an ankle bracelet because, I could go back to pursuing music. Had zero interest in doing that. You become a product of your environment. You are who you hang around. I wanted to get tattoos and fight UFC. Ended up getting a job at 24 Hour Fitness for $12 an hour. My parents, offered me the world, at least whatever they could offer for me to go back to the violin. And, jail was an incredible experience for me. It was the first time I ever felt free, where I got to do what I want, with who I want, how I want, when I want. I learned how to play basketball. I played chess all day. I read books, and I had an incredible time. I got to watch TV. I tasted my first Snickers bar, my first carton of milk, M&M. So yeah, I guess I grew up in a pretty disciplined household where there was a lot of restriction, where I wasn't allowed to go out unless I practiced the violin 5-6 hours a day. And I attribute a lot of my success that I acquired in my later years thanks to that. But I had to get rid of the limiting beliefs, which is my parents always said, Edmund, life's not that easy. Life doesn't work that way. I said one day I'll have a $2 million home, and they lectured me for, because they didn't think I liked the house we lived in. So, 24-Hour Fitness in the Pearl in Portland, Oregon, $12 an hour. And then I found out about network marketing. I got recruited into Amway for 2 weeks. I tried a bunch of network marketing companies. And then I got into home improvement sales, selling gutters, windows, roofing, siding, walk-in baths and showers. You name it, cabinets, I've probably tried it. And, I always hovered around 10, 20 grand a month, working 6 days a week, sometimes 7, trying my hardest. And then I found solar at 30, and that changed my life.
Wow. See. Wow. Okay. Okay. Quite a bit there. So obviously, so where did the whole thing come from? Obviously, so if you grew up in the environment where both parents went to school, the belief school is the
Yeah,
way, right?
they're like, Edmund, you don't want a life like that. You don't want to do sales. They didn't have any respect for it. They didn't believe in it. And they really wanted me to go in the direction they wanted me to go in. And so,
Yeah.
growing up, I was always like, if only my parents believed in me, if only my parents supported me with what I want to do, if only I had a trust fund, if only I had 50K, then I could do it. So a lot of excuses, a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of false starts and start, stop, start, stop. I could have made millions in my 20s, but I never stuck around for more than like 3, 6 months, a year in one thing. And the thing I didn't understand back then, because your life is a direct reflection of your philosophies, the way you see it, what you do on a daily basis, right? Success is
Right.
not luck. Everybody thinks must be nice, oh this or that. Success is not luck. Success is what you do daily. It's 1,000 different decisions, and it's in moments of decision that your
Right.
destiny is determined. So my philosophy today is your wealth is built in the valleys, right? My philosophy today is you have to double down when things get hard, right? My philosophy today is if 99 people are going in this direction, I want to go in that direction, right? You're a product of your environment. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, well, more than likely you're not going to make at least $1 million a year because most people don't do that.
You haven't changed then, so it's basically you've kind of been that way, and you grew up in a family that's kind of created that shelter life, I would say, right? So like careful, sustainable belief, or this is where the more of a
Yeah,
proven path in our situation for you, but yet you found something like completely opposite.
yeah. Your family
And
will tell you buy a house, save your money, be careful, be prudent.
yeah,
You need stable income. You need to make sure you have health benefits, a 401k. Blah 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 blah. Meanwhile,
right,
I encourage you to pursue what you believe in, what you're passionate about. You don't care about making money. That's awesome. There's so many different ways to measure success. For me,
yeah,
success is definitely like how I feel, my health. But a really good way for me to measure success is to see, how much money is coming into the bank account. So that's a great measuring stick, at least for me. And I'm
right,
I'm grateful that I was lucky enough to be motivated by superficial things, right? Like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a gold Rolex. Like that really motivated me to get out
yeah,
of bed early and go to work. I think a lot of people in solar end up making 10, 20, 30 grand. They're like, oh, wow, I can live for the next 3 months. And so they start, stop, and momentum is gained and lost daily. It's so hard to gain, so easy to lose. And people don't really get to experience compounding their efforts and compounded growth and building the snowball effect to where you can't even stop it anymore because they
yeah.
they you know they sell, they stop selling, they're on, they're off. And my biggest secret to success is I started and I didn't stop for 27 months. And by the time I stopped, um, it took off like crazy.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I mean, the one thing is, yeah, I've been doing solar obviously for a minute now too, and appreciate your story too. You've started back in California, and obviously went run with one company, and now building this one again. Seems like you have pretty good culture, a lot of good people behind you as well. But the one thing that I think that's at least from my perspective, right? So the difference between people who make it and people who don't is the inner belief that what you got is like it's worth to fight for, right? Because your story probably has a lot of downs, probably more downs than ups, right? You just a lot of times it's really easy on a broadcast to see that you're doing just everything seems to do good, but nobody really knows behind the scenes how many battle wounds you have to lick and go
I
through.
had to I had
But
to accept that I'm not special and I will have to do everything that people have done before me to get the results I want. I had to finally stop making excuses for other people's success and excuses for my lack of success. And I had to just take full accountability. I had to stop feeling sorry for myself. And I had to turn the if only my parents believed in me, and if only I had a startup capital, and if only this, and if only I grew up in a family that was entrepreneurial, that supported my dreams, blah, 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 blah. I had to turn all of that into positivity, which is, I'm so blessed. I speak English. I'm young. I have my health. And there's people that come to this country with nothing, that don't even speak English, that end off going off and making millions of dollars. Why not me? 10 words to live by. If it is to be, it's up to me. And once you take full accountability for everything that happens in your life, and you decide to get rich or die trying, well, you're going to fail like everyone else, but at least you get to fail forward. At least you get to fail faster. You don't care about failing anymore. You're doing everything you can to figure it out, and you become what people call an overnight success. The thing that irritated me the most when I'm smoking a cigar in my Rolls-Royce Dawn, blowing through $50,000 for the day or the week, weekend, like 2 days, was, oh my gosh, Edmund, you did it so fast. Oh my gosh, Edmund, you did it so fast. No, I've wanted to do this since I got out of jail at 19 years old. I started in solar with negative $63 in my bank account and a Camry that I owed $6,000 on, and I was sleeping in that Camry or in a $60 motel room with bed bugs sometimes, where I have to change rooms in the middle of the night. And I started with the ultimate amount of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the ultimate amount of pressure. My parents being, Edmund, enough is enough. You're 30 years old. When is enough enough? When are you going to get a clue? When are you going to get a grip? When are you just going to go back to school? You could be a doctor by now. You could take over our family clinic. We live a good life. You don't want our life? We live a great life, Edmund. Man, if I listened to that, I would have never flown in, bought 2 Ferraris in a day, and handed them the keys to a car that's paid off that they traded in for what they wanted.
That's awesome, dude. First, congrats on that. But have you read the book by Ronda Rousey? So she has a book talks about basically her worst case scenario, and her worst case scenario is similar to yours too. She lived in a car where she trained, and she ate from freaking canned food and canned beans, and in the back of her mind, every time she would go to fight or to battle, she was completely 100% comfortable with her worst case scenario. Yeah. Because of that, it just pushed me to the levels that I probably wouldn't be able to if I was worried about my worst case scenario.
There's nothing there's no better feeling than being in the trenches, belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball, with just dealing with the reality of the situation, and your back is against the wall. Comfort's the killer of success. There's too many people sleeping at home, being with their parents on the couch, living off of a friend, relative, whatever it is, just getting by on nothing, and those people are depressed and miserable, and I've been there. I was sleeping on a couch in low-income housing at 30 years old, kind of gave up on my dreams, didn't believe in anything, taking 2 hours in the morning to play Call of Duty, eat my eggs, my oatmeal, then go to the gym for 2.5 hours, then, just getting by. And when you're like sleeping in your car or figuring out where you're going to sleep that night and working all day, you finally feel good again because you're trying. And as long as you're trying and fighting for a better life and for success, there's no time to be depressed or to be sad. Yeah, is there still fear, uncertainty, and doubt? Sure. But it's such a better feeling than knowing you can do more, but being paralyzed and not doing anything. And that is such an easy thing for all of us to fall into because, we've got our phones and there's social media and there's $250 billion a day being spent to keep us distracted, to keep us living in fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to keep us paralyzed. and to ultimately keep us being consumers versus going out there and creating a better life for ourselves.
Yeah, dude. So, well, from your perspective, my thoughts, like, how do you wire this, right? Because I believe that your brain is your software and your body is hardware. Your brain does what brain tells you what your
Yeah.
body does, right? So, like, how do you first build that, and then how do you continue reinforcing that? Because I'm sure it's not just
Yeah.
like just because
I
I
mean,
believe I can make it happen.
yeah.
Like, how do you do that?
I went from listening to music in my car to spending 6-7 grand on a stereo to bump music and like buying rims that I couldn't afford for like a little C-Class Mercedes in my early 20s, thinking I was cool, to putting on some Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and Les Brown, and everyone being like, "What are you doing?" And my entire peer group being like, "Dude, are you kidding me right now? Like, that's the gayest thing I've
Mhm.
ever heard or seen. Like, what are you doing?" And
Yeah.
I just kept doing it. And it was really funny. Like, "Oh, are you a millionaire yet? Oh, how are those tapes working out for you?" And 10 years later, it finally clicked. Because all along you're like, "Oh yeah, I've gone to all the workshops. I've gone to all the seminars. I've read all the books. I know all these guys are talking about." Okay, how come some people are able to actually use that information and become millionaires, and you're not, since you know everything and have nothing? And so that was me. I knew
Right.
everything and still had nothing. But it finally clicked. Oh, wow. Chapter 11 in Think and Grow Rich, sexual transmutation. I'll summarize it in one phrase. You're either getting laid or you're getting paid, but when you're getting one, the other's getting away, right? There's a reason why most men don't achieve true success into their 40s and 50s, because they're able to calm that sexual energy and use it to produce, to channel it into their work. So I was able to do that at 30, right? I gave up being on dating apps and pursuing girls, and I channeled all that energy into my work. I ended up being one of the top reps in solar the second I started. It's not because I was good. It's because I was putting in 18 hours a day. You're eventually just
Yeah.
going to get the results, right? 14 sales my first month, 20 my second, 26 my third, 32 my fourth, built a team. We did 729 sales our first year, whatever. I'm not special. I just put in 18 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. There was nothing else to do. I'm in California. I don't have any friends. I created a winning environment. When I read in a book 10 years prior that you will never exceed your environment, your dreams, your goals, the life you want will never exceed your current environment, that just went right over my head. When it said, if you can't change your environment, went right over my head. I was like, oh, I can still hang out with my friends. I can still go to the gym with them. I can still eat and talk to them on the phone for 30, 40 minutes about nothing, about someone else. I can still have all those low level conversations.
Yeah.
It's like the person that eats a hamburger today or ice cream and doesn't think it matters. Well, 2 years from now, you do that every day. It matters.
Right. So for you, obviously, it sounds like you went through some time where the testing, right? Where like you said, you had to figure out, okay, like I can't do this and still do this, or I absolutely cannot do this. I have to do this. So you can start to kind of like
Discipline.
prioritizing things that were really important
The
now
greater the discipline, the
versus
greater the goal. I started with nothing negative. Everything's maxed out. I even shared a screenshot of it, but I didn't share a screenshot of it when I started. If you're talking about your past, you're not doing well in the present, you're not going to grow. I shared a screenshot of it once I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. The first time anybody ever knew that I started with a negative $63 bank account and maxed out credit cards was my first 6-figure month. Then it becomes impactful because it's like, I was able to do it, you can do it too. But you got to act and think
yeah,
like a millionaire way before you become one. Nobody knew, because I was at least able to walk like a prosperous person. You know, I was at least able to talk. I told all my homeowners I'm going to be a solar millionaire. You know, and then my fourth month in the business, fifth month in the business, I had over $40,000 in the bank account, and I bought my first gold Rolex, my first dream watch. 99.9% of society will tell you that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. Why would you do that? Completely drain the bank account. I knew that I needed to stay uncomfortable, and I wanted a symbol of prosperity and status, and it served those two purposes for me. And you know, it's a double-edged sword. Nice things can really hurt you, or you can, you know, they can help you recruit. I don't want anybody on here to think, oh yeah, if I had a Rolls Royce and a gold watch, I could recruit a team too. No, you can't. I did all of that without any of it. And if anything, I think it's hurt my brand and image more than anything. But you know, I don't care. All I care about is finding that one person that will actually get it and be like, wow, he did it, I can do it too.
Yeah. So, so for you, it's more like you created those time lapse or landmarks, I guess, right? Where like, what passed here, here's the reward, here's the testament of me sticking to it and doing it.
Yeah, you know, this will be fun. It's April 12th, 2024. I just started a company less than a year ago. I was making $250,000 a month as a rep, probably the highest paid rep in the industry. I built a company from scratch. There was only 11 reps when I entered, helped name it, did so much, was promised equity, all these things, never got any of it. Am I a victim? No. Do I take full accountability? Yes. Went off, started my own company, you know, gave up an incredible income, and I'm all in with this new project. Never been happier in my life. But it's crazy how many people don't believe. They're like, is she going to do it again? No, I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to do it 4 times bigger. But I'll share with you guys. I bought a Rolls-Royce Dawn in August of 2020. I was barely making $30,000 a month in solar consistently. I had no business buying my dream car, which was a Rolls-Royce Dawn. I rented one in Miami 6 months prior. I smoked a cigar. I was like, wow, this is the dream. And Gold Rush Rally was on September 18th, my birthday in 2020, pandemic, COVID year. And I got told no by 50 different banks. I had to come up with $135,000 down. Did not have the money. Had to leverage everything, sell my watch. I just like, there's always a way. And I came up with 135 down, and I bought a $398,000 car, and I did Gold Rush Rally, and my parents thought I was crazy, and everybody thought I was crazy. And that Gold Rush Rally for me changed my life. I was around successful people. I heard more stories, and the following year I did Gold Rush Rally again, but I was making $250,000 a month. So that's what I did the first time around. This time around, I'm going to buy a plane. And so many people out there buy a plane way too soon and go broke and this and that and this and that. And I'm just going to say it on this podcast. I'll be making $100,000 a week, $150,000, $200,000 a week. Way too soon to buy a plane, but I'm going to buy that 850 Challenger that I think about every single day, that I rent all the time, like I used to rent a Lambo all the time when I used to dream about that 5 years ago. And we will see.
So there's something about you. It's funny because for me, like, sometimes people pass that like, oh man, that was hell to go through, right? I just, man, I don't know how I came through this, but I finally got on the other side of it. I'm so glad it's over. But yet again, you find yourself like, now I'm gonna push myself again, put myself in a situation that pushes me again.
Go back. So got to go back $3 to $5 million, which for most people, they think they can set themselves up for life and own their house and own a little property that's going to give them 10, 15 grand a month cash flow so they don't have to worry about anything. No. All in, committed, get rich or die trying again. And, you know, liquidate everything in the process. I can't tell you how many $100,000 watches I've sold. And my Rolls Royce Dawn, my favorite car, boom, gone. And yeah, I will buy that plane before I do anything else. And from that plane, I'll launch Kumquat Capital. I'll raise $50 to $100 million within 18 months and be on a completely different level again, which there's no better feeling, guys. You know, dreams lead to despair because nobody really acts on them. Nobody really sacrifices from them, practices restriction, which is discipline. That's the first little level of discipline is restriction, right? You should start doing that with your sugar intake or your caffeine intake or whatever you could improve on in your life on a very small level. You see most people experience highs in their life and release dopamines with going to the gym. You know, we started this whole interview or podcast with talking about your philosophies. I think putting the good stuff in, listening to the greats, creating that winning environment it's more important than bathing. I hope everybody on here takes a shower every day. I love taking a shower, but I'm going to prioritize what goes into here even before taking a shower. For me, like my mind is my temple. It is the most important thing out there. The last thing I want to allow is an average, mediocre thought, even from people that I love, like my parents. Love you guys.
Yeah.
I got to get back to work. I'll talk to you later. Is anybody who called me from my past on the way up the first time around? You know, now obviously they don't talk to me anymore. They saw, you know, what happened. They're just asking me for money and they don't believe that I'm, you know, rebuilding. But if somebody calls you from your past, it's a distraction. What do? You say, hey, I'm working. Can I call you back? You never call them back.
Yeah, so for you, obviously, you guard your mind with things that you intake, right? From, like, obviously, the exercise, I assume. You're still doing a lot of it?
Yeah, I mean, I just do not allow mediocrity in my life. It doesn't mean that you have to have money to hang out with me, but you have to be an extremely positive, hungry, ambitious person that is talking about where they're going, not where they are. That's acting based on what's possible, based on their vision, not based on like their current situation or reality. You know, it's funny because people say if only or must be nice or this or that, but everybody watching this, like, you're already rich. Rich is a feeling. All these numbers, all this stuff, your bank account, it's all BS. If only you knew. It's all fake. None of it matters. If you identify as a millionaire, if you start acting and thinking like one, if you start working like you're making $200,000 a month, I don't care if you don't make anything your first 2 years, your first 3 years. I didn't make anything my first couple years compared to what I was putting out. You know, I made $181,000 my first year in solar, and I spent all of that money and some to try to build my business. And if you're truly acting, thinking, working, sacrificing, doing everything a millionaire does, it's only a matter of time before you get the results. It catches up, and vice versa. You're either growing or dying. Everything is up and down. Everything. And so...
I love that you said that because the thing is, like, there is something... So, growing up, I don't know if you know how much you know of my story. I mean, we've talked back and forth, but, like, I grew up in an orphanage, right? Since I was young, placed in the system with two siblings of mine, and surrounded by people who felt pity for themselves, pity for I don't have mom and dad, nobody cares, I'm an orphan, and the system doesn't provide any success, and so forth. What helped me is I had a family that showed interest in adopting me, and realizing, like, dude, if that happened, I can completely change my trajectory of what it should be because of my current situation, right? So, funny thing that happened is for 7 years, I wasn't adopted. Like, the system would keep, like, it would keep, hey, almost no, almost no. And it's like for 7 years, all the way until I was 18 years old, where I was enlisting in the mandatory boot camp. They finally got a letter from the judge, hey, Sasha can get a white ticket, get released from the army, and the family can go all together, go to the United States. But you know what's funny though? It's like from the time when I was had an idea that I could be adopted, I visualized myself being in America. I visualized myself being adopted. I acted as I was getting adopted. And then when I got here, with now like I'm in the United States, I have an opportunity. And so I think that having that sometimes like if people don't have it, you have to be around people who have it, right? Like a thought process. And like the interesting thing with you, like you're talking about, like I have people who love me, and that love will never go away. But I also have to have people who believe in what I believe, or something that I don't have but I want, to be around that kind of culture.
Yeah.
Which I 100% agree with that, because yeah, like you can be placed in situations that's crappy with a lot of crappy people that can weigh you down instead of bring you up, and it's really tough to be in that environment, kind of try to tread water almost against the current the
And
whole
you have to be
time.
careful. You
But
can't want it for people more than they want it for themselves, right? You can maybe meet them halfway. I used to think you could. You can't even do that. They have to do a lot of the work. Your mind's like a parachute. It's not going to work unless it's open. Yeah, you got to be open minded, and you can get inspired and this that in the moment. But then you got to do some of the work. You got to reprogram yourself. You have to change your language. A lot of our thoughts and our negative self talk is so detrimental, and we don't even realize that we're doing it. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, man. So for you, like within the company now, like how do you create the culture of that belief, but also like for the guys who maybe don't understand the importance of putting in the time and the work and building that
Yeah.
tissue, the
I'm,
muscle
I,
tissue, I guess,
I've
before
had
you
to
see the.
realize and accept that not everybody wants to become a millionaire, right? Not to me, 10 million is a new million. I can't even imagine making $1 million a year. My goal is 10 million a year, and but we're all different. And one of my favorite quotes is, "In order to dine with the classes, you want to cater to the masses." Authentic leadership is not leading someone based on where you believe they should go, or based on what you believe is best for them. To me, true authentic leadership is spending time with someone, listening to what it is they want, ideally not what their parents want or their spouse or their peers or society, but what they want. And then if you feel qualified because you've already achieved some of it, to guide them in the right direction, while knowing that you truly can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves. All you can do is make suggestions, and when the student's ready, the teacher will appear, right? They've got to do a lot of that work. An hour in the field beats 40 hours in the classroom. You can only teach them so much. They got to go out there, get their teeth kicked in, experience, fail forward, have something to sound off on, track their numbers, right? Amateurs leave their life at the chance. Professionals track everything. Now you have something to talk about because they've gained some experience, and so now you can get to the next level, the next conversation. Uh,
Yeah, kind of what you just touched on is tracking, right? Which a lot of people don't do, especially in our field when it's a 1099
yeah,
job. Uh, kind of schedule your own schedule, and you work the hours you think you should work, whatever. Like, for how important, looking back, like how important was it for you to? I assume you tracked the progress and you tracked the results, and you
I was
found a way
serious,
to.
not curious about changing the quality of my life. I was all in. It's the only thing I thought about. I would lie, cheat, and steal my
Yeah,
way to the top every single day. At nighttime, after an 18-hour day, I'm lying awake at night, obsessing about my goals, knowing what I'm playing for, reviewing everything. Then, I'm jumping out of bed like I'm possessed. There's no snooze button. I don't know what that is. Like I'm racing against the clock. I'm racing against time. And then you got to cheat time away from things that aren't serving you. For me, it was my past, everything. If somebody called me, I'd say, "Hey, I'm working. Can I call you back?" There was no social media, no nothing. I used Instagram to document and track my journeys. I'm in the field every day. I had maybe 200 views. Nobody cares. Nobody cared. I had maybe 2,000 followers, maybe 50 likes. And then, you got to steal every good idea and implement. So you got to listen to the greats. But at a certain point, for me, I had already done 10 years of that. It's time to implement. So for me, personal development was a treat. It was dessert. It was 95% productive activity, like my car's my mobile office. I bought the most expensive Prius money could buy my fourth month in, once I finally made some money, because my Camry had 100 50 miles on it and was experiencing issues. And it was either I'm on a call, catching up with a homeowner, and so the personal development and listening to the greats, that was the dessert. That was a treat. That's something that I wasn't able to do as much as I used to, right? Because now there's every roof needs solar. There's so much work that needs to be done, and it's time to taproot and call homeowners and plant some seeds with people and let them know, hey, I'm onto something big. Like, this is the modern day gold rush. Solar is the best thing ever. You've got to check it out. And of course, it's not like everybody joined, right? It's like, oh, cool, I'll look into it, I'll think about it, right? But a year later, you're like, holy shit, you're still doing solar, right? Another year later, oh, wow. Another year. I always knew you'd make it. This is incredible. I want to come visit you in Vegas.
I always knew, yeah. There's a group of people that always knew you have something going on. That's funny they said that. So the thing is that I'm running into a lot nowadays. Obviously, people have a lack of concentration, meaning that not just focus, but also like concentrating to one thing only, like solar, an example. People grass hopping from one company to another company, from culture to culture, to red line to industry to different.
I'll tell you why. It's because everyone is looking for an excuse. They don't want to look at themselves and their lack of effort and results, and they want to blame everyone else. They want to point the finger. When you're pointing the finger, you have 3 pointing back at you, including this one. You have to plant your flag and create your success. As great of a mentor and coach and whatever as I am or as you are, yes, technically I could grab a kid, they could live with me, I could be in the car with them every single day, and I could force their success. Technically, I could do what my parents did to me with the violin, which ended me up, in Carnegie Hall at 12 years old and winning competitions and being a pretty amazing violinist at a young age, right? I put 20,000 hours in, I'm going to be good. But let's be honest, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody's going to wake you up at 6 a.m. and force you to have some greens and put you in the gym and then have you out in the field 14 hours a day and put a little limiter on your phone that only allows you to be on social media for 10 minutes. But you can do that. You could actually create your winning environment and listen to somebody on YouTube that has the results you want. Or if you're lucky enough, to Sasha or whoever it is you're working with, because they have the results you want. But if you do what they did, you'll get what they got. But if you just listen to their hour talk and then go back to your average mediocre life with your average mediocre friends and their average mediocre thoughts, yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of hitting the nail right on the head right there, because I do have experience with a lot of people. The thought of the idea of making money and idea of being successful sounds so good, right? Sounds amazing. But a lot of times, the problem is there when it comes to it, the weight of the crown of being the king and being the baddest of the baddest. They're not willing.
So it sounds amazing for maybe 1 or 2 days, but then they're in the field. They don't get any appointments, yet alone sales, and so they're out. That's like 90% of people. Then you have that 5% that are in the field. They stick it out for a week or two. They actually get some appointments. They get a sale, but let's be honest, it doesn't install. They're out. Then you've got another maybe 3% of people that end up being in the field, getting a sale. It installs. And, they kind of stick with it, but now they're looking for a better deal and they're hopping from opportunity to opportunity. And then you have that 1% of people that are going to plant their flag. They're going to be the reason why their company succeeds. They're going to they're going to treat it like it's their company. So everybody thinks they own the company. My previous company, everybody thought I owned the company because I treated it like it was mine. And yeah, I gave so much. I did so much. And technically, if you look and if you talk to people and people who really knew, I was way underpaid. But guess what? I still ended up making millions. And so the the philosophy there became, I'm going to give more than I take in every walk of my life without expecting anything in return. Leadership is serving others. Leadership is bringing people up. Leadership is pouring into other people. But everybody I worked with my first year quit for great reasons. There's always going to be a great reason to quit. The installers sucked. It's not you, Edmund. It's not the company. I just can't get any installs. And when I do, they're completely butchered. I can't do that to my homeowners. I'm a good person. I have integrity. Hey, that's one way to look at it. Your viewpoint, the way you see life, is a direct reflection of your results, right? I was either too dumb and kept going, or I just saw kind of the bigger picture of how many homeowners we are helping and how complicated construction projects are and how I'm not in control of that part. So I have to put all my focus and all my energy and all my attention into what I can control, which is what? Training, recruiting, and selling. Training, recruiting, and selling. And at first it's selling, recruiting, and training. And then, it's training, recruiting, and selling. So it is what it is. If you can take full accountability, I'll tell you this. Making your first million as an entrepreneur is way easier than doing it as an entrepreneur. Okay? Making your first million as an entrepreneur, you're going to go in the hole, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. As an entrepreneur, yeah, maybe you have to put some stuff on some credit cards, borrow some money, whatever. But, you're the first to get paid. Maybe you're not getting paid the whole thing, but every business has overhead. So having this desire to make your first million, ideally a few times over. I've always wanted to make $1 million a year. My first $1 million a year was 2.6. I've heard so many kids tell me, but Edmund, I have to make 500,000 before I make $1 million. I didn't. I made 291 in 2020, 2.6 in 2021. So I guess you know more than I do. Why?
Yeah. So question for you. So there's a couple of things to find out, kind of follow on that. So one, how do you foster the culture of that 1%ers in your company, right? Because I'm sure you guys, as you build a company, you try to be selective and careful because you want to protect yourself from cancer. Because it's really easy. You get one bad rap, they just start moaning and complaining and sexy energy out of the room every time they're in it, right? And second part of it, for you personally, there had to be a major suggestion where you 10x your income within a year. It didn't happen by accident, like I said. There had to be something going on as far as finally where that compounded effort for years that you've worked prior to that start to pay off big. Yeah. So if you don't mind, kind of walk me through that process. One, how do you guys foster the company, protecting the brand and people within? And two, how, for you personally, how do you see that 10x happen?
Yeah, all you can do is all you can do, and people will tell you all you can do is enough. My philosophy is you can always do more. So obviously, I'm always thinking about that. I think everything rises and falls on leadership. So I've got a lot of growing to do in that department. Ultimately, for me, my philosophy is sift, sort, identify, and develop. You got to go through the numbers. I am not going to waste time pouring into someone that's not ready or that's not showing up. And people way overestimate what they can do in a year and way underestimate what they can do in 10. So even though, I went from nothing in March of 2020 to $180 in March of 2021 and 247 in April and 300 in June, it started way before that. It started January 5th, 2019 when I first started in solar. And just having faith. And I made that 5-year commitment that no matter what, I'm going to be in this company for 5 years and I'm going to give it everything I have. And so that way I wasn't distracted. I wasn't looking left or right. I wasn't entertaining a lower red line or a better deal or more money per install. And I was just focused, right? I kept telling myself, the birds only get to the weak. I kept telling myself, if people are still trying to recruit me, it means I'm nobody. One of the things that's kind of hilarious is my entire 20s and the beginning of my 30s, people are always calling me, trying to recruit me to this company, that company. I haven't been recruited anywhere for 3 years. I don't get those calls. Nobody tries to say, hey, join this or join. No, they don't. And it's oh, that's nice. But that's your decision, right? If you don't allow it, if you don't have those low-level conversations, if you don't waste time looking across the fence, well, there will come that time where people know better, right? Or potentially all your time, energy, and effort is going into creating your success. There's no shortcuts, no magic pill, no this, no that. You're taking accountability. You're going to do the work and you do it. And so you become, I guess, so much more successful than the average person that, they just stop chirping, right? They stop trying to recruit you. So that was a pretty big nugget for you guys. If you heard it, right? Become unrecruitable. Plant your flag, become unrecruitable. Yeah. Easier said than done. Create an environment where you're truly unrecruitable. Burn the ships. Make sure that you can plant your flag for 5 years and produce no matter what. Make sure you have this intention to give more no matter what. It's like, hey, I'm going to enter this company. It's not perfect. There's so many things that could be better, but I'm going to be the reason why this company grows and flourishes into something big. I'm going to be the reason why this company hits $1 billion. If you do that, if you focus on that, you do that, you execute on that, I promise you're going to become a millionaire, if not a decamillionaire in the process.
I love what you said that, because the thing is that people don't get in our industry sometimes, in sales in general. Anytime you get hired as a 1099, it's not you get hired for the company, you partner with the company, right? Because the format of the contract, it forces partnership. And a lot of times people come with that they sign a 1099 with the W-2 mentality still, where I need to get versus give perspective. And I love that you said that, like, come to the company with intent to understand there's flaws, but take it as your own and build with it too.
Their attitude and their beliefs, their enthusiasm, it's all based on their paycheck on Friday. It's all based on their current reality. It's like they're literally, can I get an advance? We do payroll every Thursday. Everybody gets paid every Friday. Yesterday, I had to have had 24 people ask me for an advance. And right there, I just know, like, man, this person has probably 10 years of development to go to get to a point to where they're finally able to start that journey, that 5-year journey, to finally produce on a different level. And of course, we know 99% of people never do it. But you have to understand, entrepreneurs overcome obstacles, they overcome problems. You don't want to have a $500 or a $5,000 problem. You want to overcome that. You want to position yourself in a situation where that's just becomes a non-issue. When I started in solar, I had nothing, truly nothing. I was down, just in the negative. And, my business partner, CEO at the time, not only did he never know it, but I was that guy that always picked up the tab for lunch or for dinner. Always, here's a box of cigars. Like, always trying to give, add value, provide, become like a more valuable business partner. You get paid based on the value you add to the marketplace. You have to, how do you identify? Do you identify as someone that is asking for things or as someone that is providing things? Do you identify as the person who's going to pay for lunch or dinner no matter what? Or are you like, well, this guy has so much more money than me. He obviously should pay. Plus, I work for him, so obviously you should pay. That was never me. I work with you. We work together. And if we're having lunch, I don't care if you have $2 million in the bank and I'm like in the negative. I'm going to pull out a credit card and I'm going to pray it swipes because I'm paying for lunch. And it sucks that you drink $90, shots of Clase Azul. And I didn't know that existed. But, it is what it is. I'm just hanging out with a more successful person. It's time to just, are you able to be in the room or not?
Yeah, so, well, that's kind of an interesting perspective too, because I've been in companies before where they would foster environment that we need to take care of the reps and we need to provide everything for reps. So we're going to lease their cars, we're going to pay for their trips. We're gonna pay for their freaking whatever, swag them out, do everything for
Yep.
them. Yet in return, expect nothing besides recruiting, maybe in sales or whatever. So like, yeah, I think it's like the advice I'm taking from you here. Like, obviously, I don't know if you guys foster that in your company or not, but create an environment where people feel like they almost have to like buy in order to stay in, right?
You get a
Is that
complete you get
correct?
a complete different mentality, you know,
Yeah,
complete different that person that buys in and has the $1 million dream and the projection on how to get there is going to act and think and play completely differently than the person that is on a red line, doesn't have the upward
yeah,
mobility, everything's provided for them, and you're like, they're a little enslaved in a way and programmed to always want and ask and try to get more. And the thing is, there's always another person that's willing to, offer them a little bit more.
yeah, yeah. So for you, with where you at now, like, how do you continue? Because the thing is, like, at some point, if you don't progress and you don't find refinement or reasons to grow, you hit a plateau, right? Which is super dangerous. Like you talked about the comfort zone, right? So how do you create a tier that constantly moves that progression, including reinforcing your
Yeah.
mind versus what I knew now? What I knew then is one thing, but what I know now is what I don't know yet,
Yeah.
right? So you just continue to push yourself out
Yeah.
there. Like, how do you create
I mean,
yourself?
for me, I wasn't happy with where I was. I felt like I hit a plateau, making a couple $100,000 a month for the last couple of years, and I wasn't happy with the lifestyle, and so for me, it was like the next stage. If if I'm not aligned with the people I'm working with on how to 10x the business, the next stage was just like, let's start start all over again, and let's, it's been 5 years. I gave it the 5 years. Let's go in this direction for another five, and that's a massive challenge. So tons of work to do, and yeah, you got to find ways to stay uncomfortable. You got to find ways to challenge yourself, and ultimately, we're all wired different. There's nothing wrong if you want to, make a couple $1 million and put yourself in a position of fuck you, where you own your house and you own your car and you have a little money in the bank and you don't have to work anymore and you just spend your days doing God knows whatever makes you happy. For me, I can't think of anything worse than that. That's the day I die. So it's not for me. I don't need that kind of financial security. I want to know what it's like to pay $50,000 in fuel and $25,000, to land the plane and have it parked there for a day and a half while I attend the Cannes Film Festival or something. So to each their own, but
Yeah. So for you, obviously, besides the financial gains and the profits and that stuff, like, where is your KZ? The
yeah.
harmony
So
of
the one
like
thing for you, obviously, besides
satisfaction, where it's
besides
like,
the
okay, I'm
financial
well
gains
in
and
here,
the
I'm
profits and
well
that
in
stuff,
here,
like,
I'm well with
where
people
is
that I'm
your
with. I don't know if you're
KZ? The
religious,
harmony
obviously.
of
I'm
like,
well here too in relationships. I think you're dating right now, right? You have a girl?
no.
No. Oh, okay. Okay. So you're still on the grind then. So yeah. So obviously, like, there has to be some sort of a check and balances where, like, okay, I can kind of like almost like a health analysis for yourself. Okay, I'm progressing in the
Yeah.
right direction. Like, what are you tracking now for you to see
If
that?
you don't have that today, you gotta work on having all of that today, because uh, there's no destination. Life is it's a journey. It's a process. You're constantly growing or dying, progressing or regressing. And for me, my favorite thing in the world is having goals and outgrowing my goals. I'm goal obsessed. I have these goals, And when I hit them, it's like there's always another goal. You outgrow your goal. So you're going to have a lot of desire, and humans are never truly grateful for whatever they have in abundance. We get used to things really quickly. Like I have a Rolls Royce Cullinan. It's almost a $500,000 car. It's beautiful, but I drive it every day, so it's kind of like, oh, cool. Who cares? But sometimes I make myself go into the Prius, and then once I get out of the Prius and I go back to the Rolls, I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty nice. Sometimes I'm in a Prius, I try to click the button to close the door, and nothing happens because there's no button that closes the door. I'm like, oh yeah, or I'll see a beautiful young lady and I'll wave at her and it doesn't wave back. And I'm like, what's going on? Oh yeah, I'm not in the Rolls. Okay, I get it. But yeah, you got to enjoy the process. You got to enjoy the journey, because there's really no destination. And if you're not happy today, you're not going to be happy tomorrow. You're going to be your happiest when you're in the fight. Once you get your house and it's paid off, and your car and it's paid off, and this and that, I don't know. Without pain, without struggle, without hardship, it's really hard to experience happiness. And in my opinion, happiness goes in line with progression, so climbing. And yes, you got to have your faith. You got to have, family. You don't want to be in a situation where it's never enough. So practicing gratitude every day is probably going to be the best thing you can do to stay planted for 5 years, which is what it'll take you to actually make it. Without practicing gratitude, you'll find an excuse. You'll be like, oh, well, Sasha isn't working as hard as me. He's not knocking doors with me. He's out spending the weekend with his family right now. Why am I working for him, making him all this money? Sweetheart, if you're not making any money, nobody's making money off of you. That's like your philosophy right there. Those thoughts are the thoughts of 99% of people. Your desire should be to make Sasha so much freaking money. I bought my previous business partner and CEO a Ferrari, right? And it's because that was his dream. He wanted a Ferrari 488. I was like, how can I make that happen? I already got my dream car. How can I help him get his? So your philosophies, the way you see life, your viewpoint will be a direct reflection of your results. And in solar, you can become financially free in 90 days. What you do today, your life will be a direct reflection of it 90 to 120 days from now. And then millionaires, it's what you do today will be a reflection 2-3 years from now. And decade millionaires, yeah, it takes a little bit longer. That's it.
Yeah. The one thing, it's hard. The thing is, I listened to the podcast recently with Todd Peterson. He talked about how specifically this generation lost the love that comes from hard work. Right? Because you can attest to this, working for something that you have, as hard as it is, there's so much joy in that journey getting there. And when you get that, it's not almost like, that's nice, like getting a nice car, that's nice, first 3 days, super stoked. After, yeah, right? But the journey to get there and the growth that comes with it, I think that's what creates that almost like a maniac of obsessed towards something specific, because it builds you.
The climb is the best part. And you talked about culture and this and that. You attract who you are. If you want to attract more, you got to become more. You put in the work in this business, you make $1 million a year. I promise you, if you're not already married, you're going to have way more options as far as who becomes your life partner and who you build a life with, right? You might attract a lawyer or a doctor or someone that has purpose or a career or that's just incredibly good looking, because you're bringing a lot of value to the table. You can have anything you want. If you believe you're playing for it, you're playing for it. Don't let anybody talk you out of your goals and dreams. Don't let those outside influences guard your environment, because if not, the birds will chirp, and the birds only get to the weak. And I regurgitate a lot of one-liners, a lot of philosophies, Like, doesn't matter how talented and skilled you are, your emotional intelligence will get in the way every single time. I say that to myself so much more every morning. I'm like, Edmund, don't wreck yourself. You know, don't wreck yourself. Like, make sure to stay composed. You know, if it doesn't matter 5 years from now, you shouldn't spend more than 5 minutes on it. And we've all heard these philosophies. We've all heard them. 90% of life is showing up. 90% of success is showing up. But people don't show up. They'll show up to work for someone else. But you give them a 1099, showing up for themselves? Putting in the work? No, I'd rather look at someone on Instagram that's traveling the world that makes money on autopilot. Okay, child please. Child please.
Yeah.
There's no shortcuts out there. If you want to make money on autopilot, you got to put in the work. Okay? The worst thing you could do right now is put 10 grand into some altcoin and it goes to $2 million. You're going to spend that $2 million. It's not going to do fuck all for you. And you'll be right back to where you were, except now you're like a gambling addict and you're trying to experience that high again. And you didn't become anything in the process. The best thing you can do is find a 1099, you know, align yourself with Sasha and build yourself up to your first 100 grand in a year, in a quarter, you know, in a month. You know, he's done it, so he can show you how to do it. And now next thing you know, you look back, you're like, wow, I can't believe I used to think like that. I can't believe I used to talk like that. I can't believe I used to have those limiting beliefs. I've come so far. And now you're like, oh, wow, I'm shopping for a nicer house, a nicer car. Maybe I'm, you know, helping out my parents. I'm no longer somebody who needs, but I'm someone who provides for others. And, you know, you keep climbing your ladder of success or your mountain. But everybody wants to go uphill with downhill habits. And that's sad. And a lot of people don't even want to go uphill because they don't believe they can. And the saddest thing, if you're not climbing, if you're not working towards something and striving, it means you're literally living off of a bunch of things that are not worthy of your time, energy, and you have no purpose. And that's where life gets very depressing.
No, 100%. I think that yeah, there's a lot. There's been a great. The thing is, I can tell, like, when I have these interviews and I talk to people, when I'm even considering of bringing somebody in, dude, I can tell the difference of the person who over the years developed that belief and reinforcing it still versus someone who likes the idea and not okay with doing the work for it. And like, dude, and applying you for the fact that like you do what you preach. I see that, and no doubt you'll have that plan freaking in probably a shorter time than you plan to, and achieve the success that you're trying to. Mainly because, like I said, you already the hardest part of it, which is structure yourself with that belief, surround yourself with people who support that idea, and with it, it's already there for you. So now is just to get to plowing and adding people to it so they can get there faster.
Work is the great separator. Nobody wants to put in the work. The difference between me and the guy with the plane, all it is commitment and consistency over time. The difference between, if you're listening to this and you're just getting started in sales or in solar, difference between you and the guy with the Lamborghini or the, you know, $2 million house, it's commitment and consistency over time. When you join another company, just know you're starting all over again. You're not giving yourself that 5-year run. You didn't plant your flag. You didn't take accountability. You said, I can't make it here. This is a better opportunity. There is no better opportunity. What is that saying? The grass isn't greener on the other side. Why is that saying even there? Why?
Yeah.
There's a reason why. You're either too smart to know why, you know everything and have nothing, or you're humble enough to listen to the greats, to ask yourself, seek and you shall find, to truly understand the philosophy, and to tell yourself, I'm gonna plant my flag and I'm gonna do it here. Because 5 years fly by. And 5 years from now, you could still be broke. And that should scare the shit out of you. Whereas 5 years from now, you look me up and I've got a plane. But why though? Is it because I'm lucky? Is it because I'm lucky? Is it because I'm cocky? Do you think I'm cocky? The person that comes home and grabs a beer or ice cream from the fridge and watches TV is way more cocky and arrogant than I will ever be. The person that drives a Toyota or a pickup truck is way more cocky than I will ever be with my $100,000 Rolex and my Rolls Royce Cullinan. That takes sacrifice, restriction, discipline at not even the highest level. Because the highest level would be sports, music, arts, because that takes decades. Because it's too late for us to make money in boxing or tennis or the arts. But you could be 40, 50 years old and it's not too late for you to become a multimillionaire in sales, because sales is the highest paid profession on earth. It's the highest paid, hardest working profession on earth, and it's the lowest paid, easiest working profession on earth. But you look at Grant Cardone, you look at Gary Vee, you look at anybody that you respect out there, make no mistakes about it. They have you in a few categories: commitment, consistency, over time. They're not talented, they're not skilled. Bullshit. You should have heard them when they first started. You should have seen me when I first started. I couldn't speak in front of 3 people. Bright red, pissing myself, just a shy little 120-pound kid. Commitment and consistency over time beats talent and skill. I went to Lincoln High School. I couldn't bench press 10 pounds on each side. I weighed 120 pounds. I became top 3 strongest kids in my high school, benched 315 at 17 years old. You know what everybody said? Steroids. You know what it was? I was driving to 24-hour fitness in the mornings, doing 2 hours at the gym instead of my skills and arpeggios on the violin. Commitment and consistency over time beats talent and skill. I became one of the strongest kids out there, right? 165 pounds, 17 years old, benching 225 for 15 reps, 315 for a couple of reps. It's kind of unheard of. Why? Because everybody lacks commitment and consistency over time. You know who I used to look at in the magazines back then? A guy called Jay Cutler. It was Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman, just 2 famous bodybuilders. Used to see them in all the magazines. Used to take the creatine and the BCAAs and the glutamine. When I was in shape, when I was strong, never in a million years did I ever think I would ever meet Jay Cutler or work out with him. I'm in Vegas, out of shape. Next thing you know, I'm at his house. I meet the man. Next thing you know, we're working out together. We're doing a chest workout. Next thing you know, he's calling me, checking in on me, asking me, what watch did you just get? This, that, this, that. When you become more, you attract more. I remember at the gym, he's like, how did you get a call in? Those things are going for 100 over. I'm like, I paid 100 over. You become more, you attract more.
Yeah. No, the thing is, yeah, dude, I love all of that, man. It's refreshing to hear, to say the least, because the one thing out of this podcast, I'm like, dude, there's a lot of people like ourselves that believe that, and it's rare to see, but it's so refreshing to hear when. Yeah, dude, the thing is, like, bodybuilders talking about that. Dude, I grew up thin, do Muay Thai. No, the bodybuilding does not exist. Come to the United States, everybody's on protein shakes and trying to get buff and all that stuff. Next thing I know, I'm doing what you're doing too. Like looking at Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler and Arnold. And I'm like, dude, if they're taking this creatine, I gotta take it. If they're taking the pre-workout, I'm taking it. If they go to the gym at this time, I'm taking it. If I follow Phil Heath and he is at 1:00 in the gym, dude, I have no business not being in the gym. It's just because you're trying to. If you're not what you want to be, you follow those who are those already who you are want to be. Right?
But why do I get random text messages from Jay Cutler or do a chest workout with him on a Sunday? It's not because I'm fit. It's not because I'm strong, because I'm not strong like I used to be, and that wouldn't matter, right? The reason why is because successful people are attracted to other successful people. Successful people are attracted to people that have commitment and consistency over time. They're attracted to that discipline. You hang out with Jay, you listen to the way he speaks. He is the epitome of somebody that practices discipline and commitment and consistency over time. He just had his 50th birthday, and the guy is still, lean and mean and just extremely disciplined. And he doesn't give in to temptations. You have so many bodybuilders, and you have Arnold Schwarzenegger and everybody that smokes cigars. And I'm smoking a cigar in my calling, and he could give two fucks about smoking a cigar. It's not who he is. It's not what he wants to do. Doesn't like it. Doesn't do it. Respect. If you don't like something, don't do it. But ask yourself, what do you have to give up right now to level up? You got to let go in order to grow. For me, I had to forgive my parents. I had to do a bunch of things in order to allow myself to grow. When I got into solar, I was training for my first amateur fight. I was supposed to fight in March of 2019. I could still rep 225 for 12 reps, even though I was cutting because I was going to fight at 145. And what do you think I did when I got into solar? One of my biggest passions, one of the things I love the most, the gym. Gone, right? Because, I'm a $1 million earner in the gym. I know how to lift and do this and do that, but is that going to serve me for my goal and purpose and what I'm going to do? No.
Even though it's a big part of you, right? You just cut it out.
Yeah, because that's what I had to give up, because there's so much time, energy, and effort going into that, from the nutrition aspect to the sleep aspect to the hours to this to that. I can't afford to do that. And I remember, being number one in the company and talking in a room in front of like 20 guys, and half of them are shredded. Half of them are so strong, but they're struggling. They're not making money. They're this, they're that. I was like, guys, how bad do you want it? What are you willing to give up? You care more about lifting a dumbbell than becoming financially free. Don't tell me you want to retire your parents, but you're spending 2 hours in the gym. Child, please. Yeah, for some people, it's needed. Some people really need to walk around the block for 45 minutes and drink some water. I understand that. But you're 25 years old, sonny boy. You're already ripped. You're already shredded. You mean you're going to take caffeine? You're going to take a pre-workout to go to the gym? You better take that pre-workout to knock some doors. You better take that pre-workout to get ahead. It's just a different philosophy. Sasha, it looks like I lost you.